Okay, this video is about overhauling a AG type relay. These are the Gottlieb short throw relays. Where we're at here is this is the bottom board for a jacks open, the relay board. And I've overhauled it, or I'm in the process of overhauling it. I took all the parts off of it and I moved them over onto another old discarded relay board and cleaned up the board, and then I'm putting everything back on it. In the process, I'm going through and I'm cleaning up every single relay. I've already cleaned up the score motor and remounted that. The replay meter, there's still a bunch of stuff that needs to get done, but for now this is going to be about overhauling these relays. Okay, so here are the tools that I use to do this job. I use a power screwdriver, usually to take them apart. Unfortunately, I can't find my little screwdriver tonight, so I'm going to be using it to put it back together as well. A normal flat blade screwdriver, a Dremel tool, and I keep this on, it looks like it's like 13.5, whatever that is, so in terms of RPM. Also, I have a air gun, and what you can't see is a ultrasonic cleaner. Okay, so the one thing I forgot to mention that you need is also a camera. The first time you do this, anyway, you'll be glad if you take pictures. So if I was doing this, I would get a picture of this side so you have the order that everything's in. Maybe get a picture of the other side so you have an order how all these are lined up. You might want to take a picture of the bottom. You don't need to, but you might. I used to sit there and mark where the blades came through. As it turned out, that was a waste of time, and I'll show you why later. But so a couple things, this, as we're taking apart, I'll talk about them, and when we're putting them back together, it'll become apparent. But there's 2 screws for each relay stack, and the top screw is usually longer than the bottom screw, the top screw being the one closest to the spring. And what that does is it helps retain the armature on here. So it looks to me like somebody at one point in time screwed it up and put 2 longs over here and 2 shorts over there, so I'm going to fix that when I go back together with it. But another thing, when you put it back together, all these switches need to change state. Okay, that's really the important thing. You don't need to worry a lot about, are they normally open, are they normally closed, are they this, are they that. They have to change state. So when you actuate it, if they're open, this one here is normally open. That means there's a small gap right here. That one's normally open, small gap between them. Let's see if there's a normally closed one. This one here is normally closed, which means that right now it's closed. And when you actuate it, what you'll see is that the closed ones will open, the open ones will close. Okay, and over here, this one here is called a flip-flop or a make-break. That one goes from closed here to closed there. Okay, so then I don't know if you can see that or not, but that's what happens. Okay, so the other thing that you'll notice is this one here has a funny little blade extension. I don't really know why those are there, but it needs to go into that little hole there. Otherwise it'll get all bound up when you go to put it back together. So I'm going to take it apart now. The first thing I usually do is take the coil out. Gives me a little more wiggle room. The next thing I do is I take off the switch stacks. Oh, the other thing I wanted to point out here before I take it apart, this is sort of the trick to putting it back together, is every one of these blades lines up with a slot, right? So when you put it back together, if it's a normally open, the closest slot will be not have something going through it, right? If it's a make break, it'll be the same way. The normally closed one here, you see this is the backwards one. The closest slot then will have it. So each one of these whether it goes all the way through or not, it lines up with a slot in the armature. Okay, and that's kind of a trick that I didn't know for a while, and after I discovered that, it made putting these things together a lot easier. So there's one apart. That one was really loose, so this is one of the things about taking these things apart, is you sort of realize that they might have been causing you trouble had you not done it anyway. So now these are off. So this armature is out. So this is going to go into the ultrasonic cleaner now. You don't necessarily have to do that. It's just, I like to do it. I'm rehauling it. I want everything to be really shiny. Okay, so here we are at the ultrasonic cleaner. This is China's Best here from Harbor Freight, and it'll have like a little basket in here to kind of keep everything all lined up. So what I'm going to do is put a little tougher with only one hand, but I'm going to take the coil bracket, the screw in it, and kind of put it in the middle there so it doesn't get lost. Drop it in here. I had my heat on, I don't know why it went off. I'm going to set for 480 seconds, and the reason for that is because that's as high as it goes. If I had 490, I'd do that, whatever. It's not real scientific. I dropped the whole thing in, and if you have one that's paper, one of the older ones with the paper labels on, you might want to be careful about that. That might come off. Maybe you can put like a little, paint a little fingernail polish over it, or it really isn't that horrible if you pat it dry. But these later ones that are plastic, they don't have a problem like that. So let's just wait for that to come out of the ultrasonic cleaner. Okay, so our counter's down to 0. Our relay is clean and shiny. It's going into the slop sink here. That blue down there is blue indigo from my daughter's project. So I usually use water that's as hot as I can stand to rinse off the, actually that was mean green, that was the liquid in the ultrasonic cleaner. So I rinse it off and pull it out, and I'm going to go blow it off. And you can see we lost a little bit of the S there. So a little collateral damage. Okay, so the next step here is to blow the water off. I'm going to do it over here. And just really gently, especially by the label. I got the screw in there. And I want to see about patching up that S too. That's the air compressor going, by the way. Yeah, good enough for who it's for. Okay, now it's going to go back together. This is the can be the challenging part. So remember, again, every one of these, we'll start with the back one. Every one of these lines up with the slot, right? This one's got the funny little thing, and that needs to go into its little triangle-shaped hole there. So I kind of just I'll work on that one first. That one's usually a little more challenging. And just sort of line everything up. And in it goes. And kind of get these started. Oh, I forgot something really important. Oops. The most important part of this is I forgot to clean these with the Dremel. One thing I'm not showing you is safety glasses. I'm just wearing them right now. So to do the Dremel part, what I do is this one's a little bit of a fuzzy wheel. been used a bit. That's good though. You just kind of spread the contacts a little bit, and just kind of get in there, and it takes no time at all. You got to be a little careful, especially when it's a new wheel. You don't want to get your fingers like I just did. It will happen. You know, I don't know if you I would not recommend wearing gloves for this generally, unless you got something that'll work. But gloves tend to get tangled up in this and can be probably a bigger safety problem than not having them. There, I got myself a little. So you can see now these are all clean, right? It was just half a second in each one. And I hit that one a little bit more. And they're shiny as a day. They were new. There's no dust in there, nothing to blow off. I did the other set off camera, in case you're wondering. Now I gotta put my there it is. My relay back together. Again, I'll start with the back one. It's a little easier probably that way. Push the screws up all the way so I can kind of come in on against my plane there. Everything just kind of has its own little home. Yeah, so of course now this time it's not as easy. There we go. So that's in. I kind of go in a little deep for starters, and then because you hate it when they keep popping out, so I'm just sort of feeding these screws in a little bit. Maybe cheat them a little, cheat the thing a little to the side to see where the heck the holes are. There we go. Well, this is a kind of a challenging relay in that it's, oops, see this what happened, I slipped a bit here. So I gotta start over. Like I said, this is kind of a challenging one because it's so tall. Maybe when you're starting to get the hang of it, you might want to start with a short one. Again, probably not ideal to use a freaking power tool, but I can't find my stupid screwdriver, and so I'm just going to do it. Kind of, after a while, you kind of get the feel for this too, and I sort of go in and let it coast in, and you can kind of do the last half a tweak by hand if you need to. Hold everything lightly and kind of finds its own. Okay, so that one's done. We'll do a quick inspection. This is not by any means the final inspection, but you can see they're all open. Well, that one's actually normally closed, but everything changes state. So happy with that. Let's do the next one. Push the screws back. The second one is always a little harder. So again, the first time you do this, you might want to do a small one with only one switch stack, but this seemed to go in with little muss and fuss. Extending the screws and finding the holes. They're all in place. Okay, done. Now the coil needs to go back in. I have my coil, I don't know, retaining bracket, whatever you call it. But this, you can do this a couple of ways. I like to put the screw, just assemble it out of the relay. Sometimes I'll do it the other way, but so you can slide it in like that now, right? So. If you're wondering which way the coil bracket goes, you can look at some of the other ones that are reassembled. Tighten that up. These little coil, these hairpins here went into the tumbler here earlier, so they are a little shiny. Now slide it back into place. Clip it in. Hope my arm's not getting in the way. Clip it in, and we're done. So now I only got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to go. Okay, that's it.